Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's webinar on goal setting, the Millionaire's #1 tool. My name is Parker Roberts, and I'm a real estate advisor here at Marshall Reddick Real Estate. I'm super excited for this ever-popular event that we hold typically at the beginning of the year and brought it to you through a webinar tonight. I hosted this event last month down in San Diego, and super excited to bring it back for the webinar. For those that are not local to us here in Southern California. And after reviewing the attendance sheet and recently chatting with the majority of you, it's so great to see some familiar names back for a refresher or round 2 of tonight's goal setting presentation. And before we get started, I wanted to make sure that you all can hear me loud and clear. So if you don't mind, if you can hear me, go ahead and type into your chat bar perhaps where you're from, maybe city and state or country, just to make sure you can hear me well too. So I'll go ahead and give it about 10 seconds and make sure you all are hearing me okay. All right, Mary, hello from Hayward, up there in the Bay Area. Hi, Jessica and Sue. And it looks like we have John from Florida calling in as well. So thank you guys all for joining us. Sounds like you can hear me loud and clear. So I know there's a lot of new members on the call and a lot of longtime members as well. So I wanted to get started with a little bit about Marshall Reddick Real Estate, where we started and where we are today. So we were founded in 1979 with the principles of buy and hold real estate, and those hold true today in 2017. So over 3 decades, nearly 4 of experience. We're a licensed real estate broker here in California, so we help our clients buy and sell locally in Orange County, LA, and all throughout the Golden State, but also in our hand-selected markets that are more affordable, have great job growth, and that I'm going to touch on later on in the presentation as well. We also are a private money lender, so we offer non-recourse loans or asset-based loans for individuals that can't qualify for conventional financing but still want to leverage their portfolio, whether it's in their self-directed retirement accounts or personally, and again, I'll touch on that later on too. And then thirdly, we're a property manager. So we manage our clients' properties here in Southern California, all the way down to San Clemente and all the way north to North Los Angeles as well. And like I said, we've been doing this for nearly 4 decades and kind of seen all things real estate. So happy to help in any way possible. And then since tonight's a webinar, we're going to make it interactive with some poll questions and some handouts too. And plus, at the end, I'm going to cover our unique system of creating financial independence through real estate investing. And before this presentation, I read a pretty interesting article that claimed 92% of people don't achieve their goals. So tonight, we're going to cover how you all can be part of the 8% that achieve your goals. So let's get right into it. I'm going to bring on our very special keynote speaker. Throughout his career, he has helped countless families achieve financial independence through real estate, and held educational seminars worldwide. He's a personal mentor of mine, and we've had the pleasure of bringing him out of retirement for tonight's special presentation. So may we all welcome Dr. Marshall Reddick.
Hello, everybody. This is Marshall Reddick. I'm so glad that you're on the line. And this is a subject that, quite frankly, is the most important one that I teach and have taught, and that is the subject then of how to achieve your goals. I firmly believe that goal setting really is truly the tool of millionaires. I have over time tried to associate with as many millionaires as possible, and I all find that they all have a orchestrated, specific goal setting program which they use, and they use it on a daily basis. And that's what I'm hoping that you will find that you will be doing for yourself. That each morning you take a look at your goals and then plan your day around your goals. And then that evening you evaluate and assess how well you have achieved those goals. And I think you'll sleep better, and I think you'll find that it's a remarkable process of how well it works. So I want to this evening to show you why goal setting works, what are the characteristics of successful goals, and then we're going to take you through the goal setting program that I learned years ago that's worked so well for me. Basically, goal setting allows you to take your dreams that you've had in the past, that you have today, and bring them into the future so that you can work on them presently. Nothing's going to happen in your life until you're working on your goals on a day-to-day basis. So that's basically the objective of this program. Let me first tell you how I learned about goal setting. It was just one of those incredible opportunities that kind of plopped into my lap like so many others have over the course of my life. I was at Texas Tech University working on my PhD in business marketing, and I was also teaching two very large marketing courses, and the president of the university asked if I would be willing to introduce a speaker to the entire student body at Texas Tech in the Coliseum, and I said I would be happy to do so. And he explained that this individual was a highly successful person. He was very high up in the Air Force. He quit and joined IBM. He became the #1 salesperson at IBM in a very short period of time. And then he wanted to introduce through IBM a system for basically helping with being able to do a software division for IBM. And they turned him down. So he started his own software company and became very successful with it. And he became really at the time the wealthiest person in the country. And I'm talking about H. Ross Perot. He ran for president. Today he even gives so much money to the Texas schools and is a tremendous philanthropist. At any rate, I had the opportunity to introduce him to the student body, and then afterwards they were going to have a luncheon for him. He was supposed to sit up on the stage, but he decided that he wanted to sit with the students, and lo and behold, I found him sitting right next to me. It was just so exciting. And he went around the table and asked all of us what our goals were and what our objectives were. And then he asked if we had any questions. So I asked him, I said, Mr. Perot, what do you attribute your tremendous success? And he said that he, when he had worked for IBM, used PERT, Program Evaluation and Review Technique. And part of that was that they were to set goals, their own goals and the goals for the company, and then they were actually compensated on how well and how close they came to achieving those particular goals. So he said that when he started his own company, which is EDS, he had all of his people that worked for him go through a 5-day workshop on how to set goals. And you can imagine my interest thinking about, gee, I would sure love to go through such a program. And he must have sensed that, because he asked me, he said, Marshall, would you like to come down to Dallas and go through the program? We're having one starting in about 2 weeks. And I thought to myself, I'd love to do that, but I'm a starving graduate student. I don't have a real reliable car, and I'm not sure I would know how to do that. He must have sensed that, so he said, would you have difficulty getting down there? I said, yes, sir, I might. He said, don't worry, I'll send my jet. And so I had about 18 of my doubting friends go out to Lubbock Airport on a Friday afternoon. And sure enough, there was a little Learjet that he had specially sent down just for me. I was the only one on the plane. And he flew me down there, put me in a beautiful hotel, and I got to attend the program that next Monday through Friday. And it was an incredible experience. And it totally changed my life. When I came back, many of my students had known that I was going to go through this program, and they asked me what I learned, and I said, well, mainly I learned how to set goals properly. And so they asked if I would show them how. And so I went home that evening and I created a goal setting sheet very similar to the one that you will be able to access and print out if you would like to at the end of the seminar. And then I began to use it. And I found that many of my students actually went out and filled it out. And I would see them periodically over the next 2 years. And many of them would come up and just remark how well it was working for them. And it really did work well for me. So seeing the value, when I became a college professor out here at Cal State Los Angeles, I covered a 1-hour program just as you are receiving right now on how to set goals. And then I passed out the yellow goal setting sheet and asked them to fill it out. In fact, I required it. Now, how do you get young people 18 to 24 to fill out a goal sheet? Well, it's real easy. I just simply said, if you want me to turn in your grades, I have to see proof that you have filled this out. And I have been doing that ever since. And so literally, there have been thousands and thousands of young people that have completed and gone through this program. And I do see them periodically. Some of them took my classes way back in the 70s, and they never remember what class they took, but they always remembered the goal setting sheet that they filled out. And many of them still have them with them and showed me the goals that they had set and the fact that they had accomplished all of them. And so I really saw the value. Then I had an opportunity to start doing time management seminars all over the world, all throughout Canada and Mexico, all throughout Asia, and all throughout Australia and Europe. And I always covered, in the time management seminar, I always covered the 1-hour segment of how to set goals. Because after all, how do you know basically what to work on until you have your goals, or how do you spend your time until you have set your goals? So at any rate, let's get into basically the program. And first of all, I want to turn it over to Parker. He has a poll question.
Thanks, Marshall. So yeah, it's a great starting place to have the first poll question here as we're talking about goal setting. And I just wanted to launch this anonymous poll, and it's just a good starting place. So the question reads, my goals for 2017 consist in investing in real estate this year, whether that's true, whether that's false, whether that's undecided. Well, there's no right or wrong answers here. So go ahead and take the next 10 seconds or so, lock in your questions by or your answers, excuse me, by choosing one of those answers, and I'll give you about 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and last chance, 1. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll. And like I said, these are anonymous, but I can share the results with you, and I'd like to do that now. So as you can see, looks like the vast majority of the attendees tonight, about 79% say that is true. They're looking to invest in real estate this year. 0% said false, so that's great. And then 21% in second place are undecided. So again, at the end, I'm going to show those people that said true and undecided maybe a safe way to invest in real estate in 2017 at the end of this presentation. But first, what we're going to do is bring Dr. Marshall Reddick back on and help you establish those goals. So go ahead and take it away, Marshall.
Thank you, Parker. Okay, next of all, what I'd like to talk about is how the goals function. In other words, why do goals work so well? So first, let's take a look at the fact that goals act as a guidance system. Now, I'm thinking of a huge ocean liner which has incredible power to plow through the ocean, but it has no rudder. What would happen to that ocean liner? I think we would have to all agree probably not something very desirable. It's either going to slam into the shore, or it's going to slam into another boat, or it's going to go out to sea forever. I perceive that we are all that way, that we are very powerful, we have tremendous capabilities, but the problem is that many of us don't have a guidance system. And so goal setting then provides that guidance system. So that's the first real benefit of goal setting. Next of all, goals help to harness our energies into constructive activities. In time management, we learned that successful time management, we have to be able to focus on the important things. And how do we know what the important things are if we don't have goals set? And so basically goal setting enables us to be able to scrutinize everything that comes into our life. Now, we're all busy. I've never seen a person that said that they weren't busy, but some people take the busyness and turn it into incredible opportunities, and then others tend to be busy all their life and not achieve anything. And so that's what goal setting enables us to do, is to be able to focus then on the important things. So when I put together my to-do list every morning, I basically create that to-do list on the basis of, will this help me accomplish my goals? Time management and the principles thereof are based on that factor. Everything that you are working on should be able to make you successful by focusing on the things that help you accomplish your goals. So that's another huge benefit then of goal setting. Next of all, goals unleash your creative energy. Now, we have an incredible mechanism that's built in, it's hardwired into us, that enables us to achieve incredible things. And that is called your subconscious process. The subconscious process works 24 hours a day. It works whether we choose to make it work or not. And its primary function is to help you achieve and overcome your problems and achieve and become successful. That is the purpose of the subconscious process. The subconscious process begins to learn from the time that you are born to the time that you die. And it's constantly taking in information, whether you're conscious of it or not. And what it does is, when you have a problem, it then seeks to try to resolve that problem. And it will end up giving you solutions. How many of you have had the experience of going to bed at night, thinking about a problem, and then when you wake up in the morning, you feel much better and you have solutions? That is your subconscious process working. Now, just imagine if you use that subconscious process to be able to work on important things instead of unimportant things. Because when you do not give your subconscious process important things, it'll just work on the mundane things and problems and challenges that come up on a day-to-day basis. How do I get time to go to the grocery store? How do I have time to pick up the cleaning and pick up the kids and so on? And so it's kind of wasted, because you could be saying, how can I achieve my goals? How can I achieve my dreams? How can I get ahead? How can I buy a property this year, which many of you have said that you would like to do? And then your subconscious process, without you even thinking about it, works on that to help you achieve your goals. So that's another function of goals that is just so valuable. Goals help you then to deal with setbacks. Now, none of us like to fail. None of us like to have setbacks, but we're all going to have them. I think you would agree with that. There are many books written today that suggest that the only way to achieve things is through a series of failures, and that actually the way that we achieve great things is to have more failures. I always tell the audience that I'll just bet that I have more failures each day than most of the people in the room. And then their thought is, well, how have you become successful then? And why have you been so successful? And the answer is, I've learned from those experiences, and it's allowed me then to go forward and be able to achieve great things. So don't be afraid of failure. One of the greatest problems that I see young people have today is that they have been taught to stay away from things that are risky. And unfortunately, the things that make us successful are usually new, they're usually scary, and they're usually risky. I think you would have to admit that the things that, the investments that are the riskiest are usually have the highest payoff. But we learn through our experiences to limit the risk and increase then the payoff. So that's another really important function of goals. Also, goals enable you to overcome procrastination. Now, I always say that procrastination is the worst disease that we can possibly have. Procrastination is basically thinking to yourself or saying to yourself, I'm going to do something, and then you don't do it. This is the time of year which many people do have New Year's resolutions, and they set them. They're going to lose weight. They're going to buy a property. They're going to get promoted and so forth. They have all of these goals that they set, but they seem to forget about them very quickly, and in a second or third month, they don't even remember them until next year, and then they remember them again. You know, it really is possible to go through your entire life not achieving anything, and that to me would be the worst thing that could possibly happen. Just imagine if on your deathbed you start to think back of all the things that you wish you had done. I think that would be the worst thing that could possibly happen in your life. Now for me, since I've always been a goal setter, I really feel like I have achieved more than I ever expected that I would. And that process continues to happen. And that's what I want for all of you that are listening. I want you all to be able to say that I achieved everything that I hoped and wished I could possibly do. So let's make sure that that all happens for you. Next of all, goals are a source of happiness. Goals are just an incredible feeling when you accomplish major goals. I want you to think back on some of the major milestones in your life in which you accomplished your goals. Perhaps it's when you graduated from college. Maybe it was when you got married. Perhaps one would be when you had children. Perhaps it's when you had a particular promotion, or when you bought your first home, or when you bought your first investment property. These are all milestones that give you incredible happiness. I remember one of the earlier milestones for me was to learn to ride a bicycle. My dad had bought a bicycle. It was a little larger than the normal ones that have training wheels and are small. He didn't want to have to keep buying different sized bicycles. And so he took me in the alleyway in Denver, Colorado, and we got to the top of the alley. There was a little hill there. And so he put me on, and I could barely reach the pedals. And he started pushing me down the alleyway. Then I started going faster and faster, and he couldn't keep up. And I was kind of wobbling at first, but then I felt that great sense of balance. And I don't know if you remember that, but it's the greatest feeling in the world. Now, unfortunately, my father hadn't told me how to stop, and I was heading toward a major street, and Dad was saying stop, so the only way that I knew to stop was to plow into a fence on the side. And I bent the fender, and he wasn't too happy with that. But I was happy because I had achieved something that was a milestone for me. Now, goal setting is the same way. Just imagine if every single day you could identify doing things that led you closer to incredible goals. Just think how that would feel. And I've gotten used to that, where when I evaluate the end of the day and see what I've done to accomplish and move forward on my goals, it's incredibly satisfying. And I want that for you as well. And so setting goals and achieving them is an incredible, incredible process that I hope that all of you will look forward to doing. Next of all, goals give you a standard against which you can measure your success or your failure. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? To some, they don't want such a standard, because if they don't do it, it's a sure sign that they haven't done it. For example, if they set a goal, say at the beginning of the year, to lose 5 pounds a month, then if they don't lose 5 pounds a month, that can be very discouraging. On the other hand, if you do accomplish that, it can be extremely rewarding. So many people don't set goals so they can't be a failure. And that's true. If you don't set any goals, you'll never have an experience of feeling failure. However, you will never ever achieve great things either. And you certainly won't achieve any of your goals by doing so. So at any rate, don't be afraid of goals. They will stretch you. They will challenge you. You may not always reach the goals that you set in the time frame you set, but you're going to get a lot farther than you ever would have if you did not set goals in the first place. Okay, so at any rate, those are some of the benefits then of goal setting. Next of all, let's take a look at the characteristics of goals, of successful goals. They need to be specific, they need to be measurable, they need to be attainable, and we'll see how to do that, and they need to be relevant, and they need to be time sensitive. So let's go through those in a very specific manner. First of all, goals must be very specific and they must be written down. And I always in the classes, before I show this slide, I ask people, how many of you have goals? And everybody raises their hand, and I say, keep your hand up and keep it up until I remove you. And then I say, how many of you have them written down? Well, a lot of people put their hands down. And then I ask them, how many of you review them every day? And usually there's only 1 or 2 or 3 people in the audience that keep their hands up. And they have usually been through a similar program or learned it in wonderful books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, or perhaps they've been through a program with Tony Robbins and so on. But at any rate, the reason that they need to be written down is out of sight, out of mind. As a college professor, I was very concerned that my students remember what I told them. And I learned in learning theory that if they just hear me, then they only remember 5% of what I said. If they can look at it and read it at the same time and hear it, it goes up to 33%. And then if they write it down, and that's what I'm going to recommend that you do, then it goes up to 60%. And then if you review it, and I'm going to recommend you review it twice a day, it goes up to 80% that you will remember and use that to progress in your life. Next of all, goals must be measurable and they must be reachable. So it's no good to say, I want to be beautiful, I want to be rich, I want to be healthy. Those are not specific enough. You need to be very, very specific. And so you might say, I want to own 10 properties within 10 years. That's very measurable and very specific. You might say that I want to lose 5 pounds a week, which is still healthy. That's very specific. So you need to be measurable, and then you need to be reachable. Now the question is, how do I know that my goals, which in many cases will be dreams, will be reachable? And it's fairly easy to determine that. If you can set and develop a plan for achieving your goals, then they're reachable. If you can't figure out such a plan, they're not reachable. So you may say, I want to become President of the United States, but if you don't have a plan for doing so, then it's really not reachable. So where do we get this information on how to achieve great goals? Well, there's a number of different sources. You can read books about people who have achieved the same things that you want to achieve, and that's a great resource. Also, Google, of course, has so many options now where it can show you and give you advice on how to do just about anything. I really like mentorship. I've always tried to find individuals who have achieved what I hope to in the future. Usually they're 10 to 20 years older, and I've asked them to become a mentor. And they always have been willing to do so. And just like I really feel that H. Ross Perot was my first mentor, in which he basically offered to show me how to set goals, which he believed was what made him successful. And I followed in his footsteps, and I do believe that they have made me extremely successful. So those are ways in which you can develop plans of action. But if you can't develop a plan of action to get to your goals, then you really have unreasonable goals. And so make sure that you do develop such a plan of action. Next of all, goals should serve the greater good and result in a sense of mutual well-being. And what we're saying here is that goals that are selfish, that are just one-sided, are much harder to attain than goals in which the people that are around you and the people that you care about are supporting. You want to try to have your spouse, if you're married, your kids, if they're a little older, your boss, your friends, all supporting you on your goals and your dreams. It just simply makes it so much easier to achieve than if you don't tell anybody and you try to achieve them on your own. So I really recommend that you seek support for them. Now also, goals that help other people and improve the way of life for people and so on are much easier to achieve than goals that just help you get somewhere and you're being selfish about. So I always said that a successful company is one that comes up with a way to help their clients achieve their dreams, and then they'll be successful as a result of it. And that's really what this company has been all about. It's what I started, that was my philosophy, and that philosophy has continued. Everyone here is so concerned about having each client and each individual, each investor really, really do well. And that is their prime thrust. And that's what's made us so successful over the years. Next of all, goals must have a time frame. And that is really, really important. Now this brings us to time management again. There's an old saying that work has a tendency to expand into the time allotted. And if you don't set a time frame, then nothing ever gets accomplished, and it won't get accomplished. So you need to have a beginning time, and you need to have an ending time, and you need to be able to stick to it. That is incredibly important. So if you have goals and dreams without a time frame, you might as well not have goals or dreams at all. And you're going to find that at the end of each year, you wished and hoped that you'd achieved something and you hadn't. And you could spend that, go through your life that way for the rest of your life, having all of these goals and dreams, but never accomplishing or achieving them. So make sure that you have a time frame set for every one of your goals. And when we go through the goal setting program, that is automatic. Okay, next of all, goals must have a strategy for implementation. As I had mentioned, you have an unrealistic goal if you cannot come up then with a strategy or plan for implementing it. And again, the best way to do that is to read books or listen to tapes, go to seminars, or find a friend or mentor to guide you. And then you really do have something. Okay, so the first step in setting your goals is to be able to come up with a dream sheet. And I, in the seminars, kind of play with the audience a little bit and tell them that I'm going to pass out a sheet of paper that will change their lives. And so I pass out a blank sheet of typing paper. And then I ask them, I said, what is this? And they say, well, it's a blank sheet of typing paper. And I say, what is the value of this sheet? And most of them say 1 or 2 cents. And I say, no, that is not the case. This is your dream sheet. And you're going to write down all of your dreams that you've ever had in your life on this sheet. And I guarantee you that if you apply the goal-setting principles that I'm about to share, you will accomplish every one of these things. Now, what is the value of this sheet? And everybody agrees then that it is indispensable and it's absolutely has incredible value. Now, this was what the H. Ross Perot seminar instructor asked us the very first few minutes of the 5-day class. He asked us to write down all of our goals, all of our dreams that we've ever had, and write as many of them down as possible. And at first, it was very difficult for me to think about it, but then I kind of got lost in it, and I started writing down a lot of things. And I think I put down about 17 things. He gave us about 20 minutes to do that. And I put down incredible things, that I would build my own cabin in the mountains, and that I would become head of a major department in a university, and that I would write a major book in entrepreneurship, and I would start an entrepreneurship program at a major university. And it just went on and on and on, that I would become a millionaire within 10 or 15 years, and so on. And it's so fascinating because in probably less than 10 years, I had accomplished about 80% of those. And in 15 to 20 years, I had accomplished all of them. And then that was rather scary because I kind of had to start from scratch, and I had to create some new goals. Otherwise, you can be very unhappy, and if you're not continually growing and working on new goals. So I set even more goals, and I was able to accomplish even greater things than I ever thought possible. So that's the significance of having a goal sheet. And you can either do it with pictures, as I have before you on your computer screen, or you can just write them down. But I would really encourage you to take a few minutes out and write them down. I would encourage you to have your spouse write them down. And I would encourage you to have your kids write them down. I think it will just totally change their lives. And for most, they get very excited because so many adults have given up on their dreams or their goals because they just haven't had time to work on them, and they haven't had a mechanism for being able to achieve them. And I want you to go back to when you were a childhood and think of all the goals and dreams you had then, and then think about all of the ones that you had in the past, and then right now, what are the goals and dreams that you have for your future? And then you develop strategy for them, and then you break them down into easy parts, and you just start to work on them. And that's the principle of successful goal setting. So let's just take an example of how you might do that. One of my goals was to become financially independent. So how would you become financially independent? Well, one thing that is helpful is that you want to determine then when you want to be wealthy, or when you want to be a millionaire, or when you want to retire. I knew I wanted to retire early, and I was able to retire at age 57, which was pretty cool. I did have a goal of, developing and furthering the small little real estate company that I had started, and so after I retired, we grew that business to 150 employees with being in many, many states and so on, and a highly successful company. But that's what you need to do, is determine some of those main things that are important to you. In this case, for financial independence, when do you want to be able to retire, or when do you want to become a millionaire? We have so many people. We've had 50,000 people invest through our network, and I meet them all the time that they're as young as 45, and they are retired now. And it's just, and they say they owe it to the fact that they took this seminar, and they followed through, and they bought real estate with us. So that was so exciting. Next of all, determine how much money you will need then to retire. So what does that look like? And that will give you an idea then of how many properties you need and so on. And Parker can help you a lot better if you know how much money you will need then to retire. And then determine how many properties you will need then to purchase in order to retire when you want to. Now, if you're starting out earlier, if you're, say, under 40, then we'll have one strategy. If you're 50 or 60, then your strategy might be much different. And that's what Parker can help you with. Then develop an overall goal and set yearly goals for accomplishing this number of properties. Let me show you how I became a multi-millionaire. At first, I wanted to just become a millionaire. And so I bought my first property in Lake Arrowhead in 1975. And it scared me to death. I didn't know what I was doing. It turned out that it was a good time to be buying. It turned out it was a good location, but I didn't know anything. But I had a mentor that was a lot sharper than I was on how to buy and where to buy. And so I just followed his lead. And so I bought that property. After I had held it for about, I think, 9 months, the property had gone up more than my income at Cal State Los Angeles for a year. And I thought, this is great. And I thought, well, if one property is good, 2 properties are going to be better. And so I bought my next property down in Palm Springs. And that worked out well. And so then I bought my next property in Big Bear on the slopes of Snow Summit. And that worked out well. So then I set a goal of buying 2 properties per year. And this was the beginning of 1980. And I bought my first property in Long Beach in, I think it was 1978. And that was continuing with buying 1 property per year. And then I bought next property in Hawaii. And then I began to buy all through the 80s 2 properties per year. And that worked out extremely well. And I became a millionaire. It was very exciting. And so that was working out really well. So in the 90s, I decided to start buying 10 properties per year throughout that time. And then in year 2000, it was working so well, I decided to start buying 25 properties per year. And I did that through '06. And then, of course, the recession hit, and that dramatically slowed things up. But I had enough money to keep the business going and enabled it to survive to this day. Had I not had that money, I would not have been able to do so. So that's the next step that you need to do. Next of all, maintain your yearly goals and don't allow yourself to fall behind. So it's just a matter of setting these goals and sticking to it and not allowing you to procrastinate. And goals really help you to avoid procrastination because they're, as I said, as you achieve bits and parts of them, it's just so exciting. And so that's what I'm hoping that you will become involved with. And number 6, then, develop a strategy to use real estate as a means to achieve your retirement goals. You have a number of different ways of doing so. You can, if you start early enough, live off the income of your properties. You can do 1031 exchanges and enhance your income by moving into perhaps apartments. There's just a whole variety of things you can do. You can refi and take money out and live on it, or you could sell them, which I don't encourage because every property that I've ever sold, I wish I still owned today. Okay, so at any rate, I'm going to turn it over to Parker now and let him talk a little about what they do and what they have to offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marshall. It's very insightful to hear you speak, just like we did about a month ago down in San Diego as well. So I wanted to point out that he mentioned the Canary worksheet, or how to write them down and put specific timelines on your goals, whether they're short-term, intermediate, or long-term goals. And I've given you guys a gift for signing on today. It's a free handout that you can actually download the PDF version of this ever-popular Canary handout, and it's in your control panel, probably on the right-hand side of your screen, that you all can download for free. You can fill it out yourself, have your spouse fill it out as well, and really put your goals on paper. And remember, review them every single day, so you have about an 80% chance to achieve those goals and remember those goals as well. So go ahead and download that if you would like, and let's get rock and rolling with your goals. So as I mentioned when I first started out, my name's Parker Roberts. I'm a real estate advisor here at Marshall Reddick. I'm a Southern California native as I grew up in Orange County. Grew up in a real estate family as my father is in the development side of the industry. And when I went to college at Arizona State University, I studied finance at the W.P. Carey School of Business. So I started to ask myself, what do I want to do for a living? What do I want my career to be? Just like every early 20-year-old kid is asking himself before graduation. I must have asked myself this 100+ times, and I kept going back to my upbringing of real estate, but also my love for numbers, wealth building, and investing. So that's kind of how I landed here at Marshall Reddick Real Estate, and I guess the rest is history, right? I started my retirement portfolio at 19, started my real estate portfolio at 24, and my personal goal, just like Dr. Reddick alluded to earlier, is to do one or more, obviously, real estate transaction for my personal self per year. So I was able to do 2 last year as I squeaked one in at the 11th hour in December, and I am writing down my goals and repeating them on a daily basis. So that's a little bit about me, and let's get into what I promised on the system to achieve your real estate goals and how to do it. So the first step is obviously, why are you even looking into real estate? What are you hoping it's going to accomplish? Well, you all just downloaded that Canary worksheet so you can start jotting down those goals, or the why portion of your thought process. The next one's how you're going to evaluate your options, basically your purchase method, whether it's conventional financing, private financing, cash out refinance, HELOC, 1031 exchange. I'm going to go through each one of those options in the next slide as well. You obviously have to put a timeline on it, like Dr. Reddick alluded to earlier. You have to put maybe a month and date on paper, review it every single day to get comfortable and put a timeline on this goal that you establish. Obviously, you have to know what you're looking to get into. Set your criteria, whether it's price, your asset type, the area. I'm going to cover in it a little bit too. Where is pretty self-explanatory, and the who to introduce you to the entire team of vendors and resources that I have for you all as well. So let's get into each one of these steps briefly. As I know that 79%, if I remember correctly, mentioned that they'd like to invest this year, which you already put the when on your goal, and let's get into the details here. But first, let's get into the second poll, as I want to make sure you are all awake as you've been working hard all day. So the second poll is up on your screen now, and as I mentioned, there's about 6 steps of the methodology to achieve your real estate goals. So I'm just curious, after hearing them, what's the greatest value in using the Marshall Reddick Real Estate Advisor, whether that's the why portion, whether that's how, whether that's what, where, or who. And again, these are anonymous, guys, and there's no right or wrong answer. So go ahead and pick one that is specific to your thought process today, and I'll give you about 10 more seconds. It looks like one is out in the lead, but we got 2 right behind it, and we'll give it about 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, and last chance to get your vote in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And again, just like before, I'm going to share these with you all. So it looks like it was very close for first and second. First place was connecting with all the key people. So that's the who portion. I'm going to cover that at the very last slide of the presentation on the specifics of each key piece within real estate investing and being successful. Close second place with 30% was evaluating which markets make the most sense. Now, I thought this was going to be the #1 choice for the crowd tonight, but hey, I'm surprised sometimes too. And in last place, setting my specific investment criteria as well at 8%. So a wide range, and thank you all for putting your poll answers in. So continuing on, I mentioned we're going to analyze each how portion, and let's get right into it. So first of all, conventional financing. Conventional financing guidelines have really changed since about 2009 after the recession. You know, today's qualification, some people call it strict, other people call it safe, where you have to document basically an arm and a leg, some people call it. Now, you have to prove that you can take out a mortgage, so that's through your W-2s, your tax returns, your bank statements, etc. But there's a reason why you have to do all this work up front, because it gives you access to the safest loan products out there. As Fannie and Freddie, basically the government, sets these guidelines that lenders have to adhere to. So that opens you up to the lowest down payment and lowest interest rate, and a fixed rate for that matter, for your investment portfolio too. For a single family home, you can go as low as 20% down on a 30-year fixed rate. Interest rates today at the recording of February 1st, 2017 are in the mid-4s, low 5s. So still very historically low in the grand scheme of things. Second aspect of conventional financing is the HELOC or cash out refinance. Now this is an individual that already has a small portfolio established. You know, they may have bought a property out in Phoenix, Arizona in 2009, 2010, which it doubled, maybe 2.5 increased value in 2017. So they'd have the option to essentially access that equity in that property through a home equity line of credit or a cash out refinance. Now again, these have to adhere to Fannie and Freddie guidelines, so you have to show your job history, about 2 years on average. You have to show your assets, your income, but again, it gives you options to expand your portfolio and making a snowball effect. Now I'm going to talk about these two in conjunction because they go hand in hand. So first I'm going to start on the right-hand side with the self-directed retirement accounts. This is for individuals that may have a 401k with a previous employer or a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, that they're tired of the returns that they're getting in the stock market. That recently hit the 20K mark, but now it's just shy at the close of today. But just kind of tired of the retirement, return that they're getting in their retirement portfolio through equities or mutual funds, and want to access an asset that they understand, which is real estate. So, like I mentioned, a previous employer's 401k or a traditional IRA or a SEP IRA or a Roth IRA, you can actually self-direct those funds and basically take control of those funds in purchasing what the finance world says non-traditional assets, a la real estate. Now, there is a caveat with that, which you cannot use conventional financing to your advantage in a self-directed retirement account. So that's where private financing comes into play, which I'm going to kind of hover with my cursor here. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but private financing gives you the option to leverage your money still on a fixed rate, 30, 15 years, and purchase appreciating assets within that retirement account, which is so cool and gives you that control. It has to be what I like to call a self-sustaining ecosystem. So all the incomes, all the expenses have to come out of that retirement account, or you're subject to penalties. But hey, it gives you those options to leverage your money, not put 100% down, which is cash. So you could put a minimum of about 40% down. Interest rates are as low as 6.5%. And we do that in-house through our private lending division offering asset-based loans. So I mentioned cash, obviously pretty self-explanatory. This is perfect for an individual that might not be able to qualify for conventional financing and really just want to maximize the cash flow bucket of real estate investing. So that's always an option. And then lastly, my favorite, a 1031 exchange. This is a huge, huge benefit of real estate investors in which you can essentially sell one asset that has a capital gain on the property, so an equity position over the long term, and what I like to call step up your basis. So like I alluded to earlier, maybe you bought a property in Phoenix, Arizona in 2009, 2010, bought it for $100,000. Now it's worth about $200,000, just easy numbers here. So you have about $100,000 in equitable gain. Now if you just sold that property, took your cash and went to Europe, you would actually have to pay Uncle Sam about 25, maybe 35% of capital gains taxes. And that's dependent on your tax bracket. So to defer those capital gains taxes and still build your portfolio, you can sell that Phoenix, Arizona property, exchange it for one or multiple properties, and increase your cash flow, but also reset your depreciation schedule, which is pretty cool. So again, 1031 exchange is for somebody that has a portfolio established per se and looking to build on it or consolidate maybe in an apartment building or a commercial building or a fourplex or multiple of those as well. So we touched on the when earlier. Basically, it is a function of knowledge and confidence, because if you're knowledgeable about a topic, that brings confidence on the topic, and that'll establish your when. So as we build your how, as we build your why, the when kind of plays itself into the puzzle piece there. And that's the resources, that's for the qualifying capability of you as a borrower, and that will play into your what. Basically, your unique investment criteria, what you're looking to accomplish, and how to do it based on this what. So obviously price is one of them, what you can afford. your property class, whether you're looking for an A-class property, whether you're looking for B or C, which I'm going to touch on the next slide. The asset type. Are you a single-family person? Are you a multifamily person? Multifamily person is somebody that's looking to maximize their cash flow, diversify a little bit, and have one loan on 2 doors, like a duplex, or one loan on 4 doors, like a fourplex. And the condition, are you open to doing a little bit of rehab or repair on the property to get it rent ready, or increase the rental amount on that property, or are you more on the passive side? You want something more turnkey, less repairs, have a good tenant in place, and minimize your potential gray hairs on the ever confusing rehab on a property that seems to grow and grow and grow no matter the contractor's bid. Am I right? And then lastly, property details. Age of the property, 2 stories, single family, square footage, bed, bath, you name it. That's in the property details. So let's kind of go into a little bit more depth on unique individuals and their criteria here, and basically just ask yourself these 6 questions, right? Am I looking for income or long-term wealth? When am I looking to retire? How much experience do I have? Do I have a couple properties in my portfolio that set the solid foundation, and now I can take on a little bit more risk? Can you qualify for those conventional financings? Do you have the W-2? Do you have the job history? Do you have the bank statements, etc., to qualify for that? And if you can't, that's okay, and that's where you can still use private financing to your advantage. And then basically, can you afford? But I really, really want to highlight this bottom slide here. As I mentioned earlier, we've been in business for about 4 decades, and notice a trend within different classes of property. So you can basically do this for any major metro throughout the U.S. If you can find the median sales price, which NAR releases, the National Association of Realtors, you can apply that number to this property classification heat graph and get a great understanding of the neighborhood and the potential tenant that's going to be in your investment property, right? So I mentioned earlier, are you looking for income or long-term wealth? So 2 classic examples. Me, I'm a little bit younger, not married, don't have kids, don't have a lot of debt at this time, so I'm looking for long-term wealth, okay? My dad, who I mentioned earlier, is in the development side of the industry. He is closer to retirement, obviously, than I am. So he's probably looking for something a little bit more on the increasing his income through retirement. So my father, is looking for more cash flow, right, to supplement his income through his retirement age while he travels the world and does whatever his goals are for retirement, right? So he's okay with just increasing his cash flow bucket and doesn't really care too much about appreciation because his investment horizon is less than me, where I have I'd like to retire sooner rather than later, but more have the option of retiring, right? So I have a long, long investment horizon. So I'm looking for these A-class properties for my portfolio because I'm not necessarily looking for income right now. Yeah, it would be nice, but I'm really going to make the most return on my investment through appreciation, through the principal pay down, and through the tax benefits, but also having a very stable renter in my A-class property that might be dual income, looking for the nice school districts within each metro in which the A-class properties cater to. And I mentioned the markets. We're in about 15 nationwide right now. Some are in California, Texas, Florida. I mentioned Phoenix earlier. But you may see a major trend within these markets of Phoenix, Bay Area, Los Angeles, Orange County, etc. And they're all major metropolitan areas. Now, there's a specific reason why we target major metropolitan areas. Well, it's a safer investment, right? Because you have a lot of job growth, you have a lot of population growth. The market needs to be economically diverse, so might have some finance jobs, might have some manufacturing jobs, technology jobs, government jobs, education, you name it. Because the worst thing you want to happen is one industry leave town, and then you're kind of a sitting duck, basically. Also, reliable property management. is so key, and that's one of the who parts that I'm going to touch on in a little bit. But also reasons why we look at the major metropolitan areas is, or for this matter, the state that we look in, is because we want to target landlord-friendly states versus tenant-friendly states, right? You want the ball in your court if you have to go through an eviction or the process to get that non-performing tenant out and get a qualified tenant in place quickly and cost-effectively as well. Now, I know you may be looking up there, and my fellow Californians are like, well, you know, California is just not a landlord-friendly state. And that is true. And that's where the property management comes into play to really qualify these tenants, make sure they make, you know, 2 to 3 gross income of that rent, make sure there's no judgments on them, they have a long job history as well, so you don't have to go through that eviction process. Now, the benefits of my local market, which is near and dear to my heart, of Orange County, is really the appreciation. The value is there, land is scarce, but that's a conversation that we'll have together that's very unique to that individual, right? So if you're asking yourself, well, what market is best for me? Well, you and I will sit down and discuss your options of the how, but also the where on this. But generally speaking, if you see my cursor, these markets down here are more on the appreciating side, okay? And then these markets right in the middle have more cash flow and not as much appreciation. So anything you're looking for, we can cater a strategy for you and establish those goals and achieve those goals for the long term as well. And a lot of you, about 32% said that connecting me with all the key players is what's the greatest value of using a Marshall Reddick advisor. So let's go through these people because they're so important with your experience within purchasing real estate, right? So first advisor, that's somebody like myself to jot down your goals with you, put a plan of action in place to achieve those goals, whether they are a short-term goal, so 12 months or less, a long-term goal, 10 years or more. And that's where we'll have this conversation. Lender, that is the how portion. My biggest piece of advice, if you're looking for conventional financing, qualification on the front end. A fully underwritten pre-approval is so key in today's industry of real estate investing. Some sellers don't even look at what's called pre-qualified buyers because they know they haven't gone through the entire process of approval through the underwriter. And another big piece of advice is to work with a direct lender. A direct lender has underwriting in the same building. So they can walk down the hall and say, hey, Mr. Underwriter, how is John Smith's file coming along? Whereas if you work with like a retail bank, etc., systems are a bit slower and things may fall through the crack. So a big piece of advice, we work with a great direct lender and they can analyze your how portion and make sure that you get the best customer service as well. And then the realtor, this is what I like to call the regional reps in these out-of-state markets, which I had on the screen earlier today, or a few minutes ago actually, or somebody like myself in the California market, to really go to bat for you, get you the best deal possible, negotiate on your behalf, and really have your best interests in mind as the buyer, I mean, or seller if you're selling the property, to get you the best deal. Building inspector is so key. Now, whether you're buying new construction or a 100-year-old property, if you don't get a building inspection, there's nobody to blame but yourself or that person that told you not to get the home inspection. So another big piece of advice, write this down, always get a home inspection, okay? Because the building inspector is licensed. They go through every nook and cranny of the property so you can get a great idea of the condition of major items within the property and minor items as well. And I have a funny story actually. About a month ago, I was up at my client's property that we were in escrow in, doing the home inspection, right? Named Bill, great guy, met me at the property. And so we're going through, walking the property, you know, pointing out deficiencies, pointing out great points of the property as well. And he disappears for a while. I'm like, where the heck is Bill? So I'm talking with my client, just hanging out, and Bill comes back in this Ghostbusters jumpsuit, it looked like, with boots on, with a mask on, and goggles. And I look at Bill, I'm like, Bill, like, what are you doing? I'm thinking, he's middle-aged, he's in his 50s, and I'm not quite sure what his angle is. And he looks at me, he goes, Parker, I'm going under. And he gets under the crawl space and looks at the foundation, the plumbing, everything. And he came out of that crawl space so dirty, but now I understand why he's wearing the goggles, the mask, and the Ghostbuster jumpsuit too. But that's what the building inspector is there to do. Insurance agent as well. Not all insurance agencies are created equally. That's where you have to have a good relationship with an insurance agent to get you the best coverage or the most coverage while still keeping your premiums low, right? Because investing in real estate, there are risks. There are. But if you're properly covered and keeping your costs low as well, that's a win-win. And then number 6 here, the property manager is so key to your bottom line. Again, not all created equally. The fees change from company to company. The service absolutely changes from company to company as well. But they're really, really tied into your bottom line as a real estate investor, right? So on the front end, they screen tenants. They go through the proper channels of criminal background, job verification, income verification check on the front end to make sure they're a qualified tenant to live in your investment property, right? Ideally for the long term. But they also limit your liability as an owner, as they're the ones collecting rent, as they're the ones that are conducting showings, they're the ones that are conducting any repairs on the property as well, and basically have you as the owner in the shadows, just keeping them informed. So really limiting your liability on that property as well, but also limiting your liability is your insurance policy too. So again, I mentioned we can sit down, we can chat about your options, your why, your how, your when, your what, your where, and your who. As I know, the where and the who are very important to about 62% of the people that did the last poll there as well. So again, I want to open it up for Q&A at the end, but I've also, first of all, wanted to thank you for joining us. I know we ran a little bit late here, but we really appreciate you signing on. And again, there's my contact information. I would love the opportunity to get to know each and every one of you, help point you in the right direction, and really start accomplishing your goals. As the vast majority said, let's get into real estate in 2017. So I'm going to bring up Dr. Reddick again for a little bit of Q&A here. And feel free to type your questions. I got a few coming in throughout the presentation in the chat bar. So let's get to these. Dr. Reddick, this is the first one that came in. I think this is a great question, actually. What is your greatest piece of advice to be successful?
Wow, that's great. I've just noticed that getting good advice from people that are more knowledgeable than you. I've always valued having mentors throughout my life, and I've had incredible people there. They don't mind helping you. They have big egos. They want to share their knowledge. If you go to them and say, I'd like to take you out to lunch and pick your brain and learn from you, I've done that over and over and over again. Then you don't make a lot of mistakes. They can tell you how to get where you want to go a lot faster. So I think that would be my advice. The next best thing to having a mentor is to read really good books and listen to good tapes and Google, listen to everything that comes in that you think might be valuable, but make sure you pick people that know what they are doing and have done what they say that they have done. That would be my advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And this one comes from Jessica, and I think I'll take this one away. Her question for the crowd was, how do you come up with the initial funds to get into real estate? Well, that starts with Dr. Reddick's goal setting portion, right? You got to put a plan of action in place to really start accomplishing your goals and obviously be employed, right? So being diligent in your savings plan, whether it's saving $100 a month, whether it's saving $5,000 a month, whatever range that is, there's no right or wrong way to start saving. So saving up, building your criteria, maybe even look into some markets while you're saving to kind of kill, I guess, 3 birds with 1 stone at that point, to really get into your goal of owning real estate. And also, Jessica, I want to mention that in these markets, it's a wide range of price points. Right? I mentioned conventional financing. You can do 20% down for a single-family home. So where I live, there's property. The median sales price is about in the 700s, around there. So 20% down is a big, big chunk of money. Now, in other markets, they're very affordable. Right? Memphis, for example, Memphis, Tennessee, one of those cash-flowing markets. The median sales price is around 120 to 130. And you can get an absolute smoking deal out there at 20% down at a $100,000 list price. By golly, you're in it for about $30,000, right? You have a 30-year fixed rate, and other markets are still even more affordable than that and still safe as well. So it's dependent on your savings plan and also market selection on how to achieve that goal. But great question there too. Dr. Reddick, I think this one's best suited for you to answer here. And this is great for the whole crowd too. This is from Tree. I tried to review my goals every day, but after a few weeks I feel pressure to do so. So what's your advice on how to overcome that self-pressure to review those goals every day?
Okay. Well, in the Canary goal-setting sheet, it suggests that you write down your long-term goals, which is 1 to 5 years, and then it suggests to do or actually 5 to 10 years. Intermediate range goals are the 1 to 5 years, and then the short range goals are for 1 year. And then I recommend that you break those down by monthly, weekly, and daily goals. And the daily goals almost become habit patterns. For example, my goal to stay healthy has been broken down to where I wake up in the morning, I do my sit-ups, I do a little yoga, I have a trampoline, and then at night I walk 3.3 miles every night. And that really, really helps me with my strength and my weight. And it's something I don't even have to think about, and they're very doable. You want to break down your goals into doable things you can do every day easily. And that takes away any pressure because they just aren't that hard, but they move you forward every day. That's the important thing, is to feel like you've moved forward.
Good, awesome, thank you so much. And I'm getting a lot of questions about the complimentary mentoring consultation as well. How much does it cost? Well, guys, I am pleased to tell you all that it is free. My services are free to you. As a real estate brokerage, we make money on the sale of real estate. And then also through loan origination fees through private financing, or if we manage a property here in Orange County, through the management fee. Right? So that's how we make money, just like any other real estate brokerage, maybe like a Century 21 or a Keller Williams or the other ones you're familiar with. But what sets us apart is basically these out-of-state markets in which we have those teams in place to make your experience great, but also your investment in return great too. So again, the consultation is free. Okay, my services are free to you as well. And great question from a few of you that typed that in too. So I have one more question here, and it's coming in from John, who in Florida actually, who signed in earlier. He's saying, when is the next webinar? So the next webinar, I don't know the exact date, but all of our live events and all of our webinar events are posted on our website, where a lot of you had RSVP'd for this one. So it's under the events tab. You can see the whole schedule of free educational events pertaining to a wide variety of real estate topics that you can sign up for by a click of a button. So keep abreast to the calendar there with upcoming events, or just let me know what your interest is, and I can point you in the right direction for a great event, or just have a conversation about those too. So I think that's about it, right,
Yeah.
Dr. Reddick? Do you have anything else? Any closing thoughts?
Well, just thank you so much for being on the webinar, and I hope you found this very helpful. Do go through your Yellow Canary goal setting sheet. It will really, really help you. I have 11 categories of different kinds of goals: social goals, professional goals, personal goals, family goals, spiritual goals, all very, very important. So make sure that you fill it out completely. And then, as I say, break down those goals into daily things you can do and get in the habit of doing. And you will be very, very successful and very pleased with the results.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. And I wanted to leave one last thought. Remember I said earlier about 92% of people don't achieve their goals. So let's all be part of that 8% by filling out that Canary worksheet and getting those goals in place for you guys. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time after a long day of work or caring for the kids, etc. And I will chat with you all soon and hope you have a great night. So take care, guys, and have a good night.